This video is brought to you by Dr. Kristen R. Bromley's Guitar Method Book Series and Online Music Academy.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen Bromley. Welcome to my online academy. I am thrilled to be here helping you with playing the guitar. In this quick answer episode, I'm going to be explaining how we do strumming patterns with alternating bass note plucks. So this sort of style, now this is something that some refer to as flat picking. This is part of the flat picking style. It's used in country and bluegrass and folk, where we pluck out these bass notes and alternating bass notes and do a strumming pattern. So let's go ahead and just dive in. Now, if you are jumping to this video and you're brand new at this, you may want to check out the quick answer video on inserting just plain old bass note plucks first, before getting into inserting alternating bass note plucks, because it's helpful to do that first before you start throwing in this skill. But I'm going to go ahead and dive in here. So we have a strumming pattern. If you're not familiar with rhythmic notation, you can check out my quick answer video on understanding rhythmic notation, but I'm going to be helping out with the rhythm here. The key for understanding those letters that go above, you have B for the bass note. That's where we pluck over that rhythm. We will pluck the bass note of the chord. A, B, we pluck the alternate or alternating or alternate bass note pluck. And then the down is strum is represented by this rectangle. V is an up strum. So that's pretty standard as far as how those things are written in music. So, and then I've got some little chord progressions so we can work with the different chords that we run into in first position, or the open position chords, which are the chords that we use when playing this style. So first, the strumming pattern. So the strumming pattern, and I'm going to say there is a down up, so we do a bass note pluck, then a down up in the strumming, and then an alternate bass note pluck, and then a down up. You can, in place of going down up, you can just do a straight down strum, and that's a great place to start. I'm going to be demonstrating it with the down up, because ultimately you probably want to get here for most of the time, and that way you'll kind of hear what it sounds like, because getting it in the ear is how we actually learn how to play it. So we got to hear it first before we can ever mimic it and do it. So I'm going to demonstrate it with the up, but if that's a bit much for the moment, then you can just do down up. Being that this is a quick answer episode, I'm just jumping to the down up. I usually have my students start with just plain old down strums. Okay, we'll start with an A chord. So the bass note plucks are easy to find, and I have explained this in the quick answer video where I talk just about inserting bass notes. But the bass note is the lowest note of the chord, so it's the lowest voice, and it's usually the root note. That's the note that the chord is named for. So if it's a G chord, it's a G note. If it's a C chord, it's a C note. If it's an F chord, it's an F note. Finding these on the guitar, well, it's the lowest note in the chord. For any type of E chord, E, E minor, E7, because this is a low E string, our 6th string, that's going to be the one that we're plucking for those chords. For A chords, that's the 5th string, the open A string, A, A minor, A7. For the D chords, it's the D, D minor, D7, it's that open 4th string. For the rest of the chords we play, it's the lowest string we have a finger on. So like the 6th string for G, 5th string for C, 4th string for F, that sort of thing. 5th string for B7. And it's the same if I'm playing G7 or G minor. It's just that lowest place I have a finger. So we'll go ahead and jump in here then, and I'll explain the alternating bass note as we go. So this first progression that we're going to play is A, D, back to A. So we get those three chords. These chords work together a lot, so this is a great little progression to use. So for A, we have two options when we're alternating with bass notes. Usually we alternate with the 5th of the chords. So major chords have a root, a major 3rd, and a perfect 5th or a 5th. We usually alternate on the bass notes between the root and the 5th. That's what a bass player would be doing. So in this style, that's also what we do. So that would be for an A chord. So we're going to plug those in. Most of the time we find those notes on the next string or the string that's just lower than it. And sometimes we can do both. So sometimes I will step aside and say sometimes we will alternate with a chord with the third of that chord, but that doesn't happen with the majority of them. So it works for C, F, and G. So sometimes we can do that with C, F, and G, and it also can work for B7. But the rest of them, it doesn't work because the third is voiced too high and it just doesn't sound good. So with these chords, A, D, and E, we're going to be alternating with the fifth of the chord. So for an A chord, I pluck my open fifth string. I have two options for the alternate bass. I can go onto the higher string, which is the fourth string, and that has the fifth of the chord. So I just alternate just like that. Then I can get my down up strumming going in there. I love this style of guitar. It just has a drive that feels so good. I also have the choice with E of going lower to the open sixth string. So you can do either one. In a given song, I usually just do which one I sort of feel like doing at the time. So that's A though. D works the same way. For the D chord, we have the open fourth string as our bass note. And then the fifth of the chord is just on the third string, so I can go from the fourth to the third strings, and get a higher sounding one. Sounds a little bit thinner because we've only got those four strings and then three strings. Or with this one, the fifth of the chord is also the open fifth string, so down to that A, so I can go higher to lower, fourth string to fifth string. Got the E chord. If I had a 7-string guitar, I could go lower, but otherwise, since our low chord is the 6th string there, low note is that 6th string, I've got to go higher, and the 5th of the chord is on that next string, so E to A. E to A, I'm saying the E string to the A string, but it's actually we're playing a B pitch. Okay, so if we go ahead and insert that into this chord progression and do each chord twice, so we get two measures on each chord. Then we have the D, we have the E, and the A. Now I will mention that if it was A7 or D7 or E7 were used instead of A, D, or E, or even the minors, for these chords, it's the exact same alternating bass. We're just going to use this one. So you go 1, a 2, a ready, go. We've got the A, to the D, to the E, back to A. I'll do it again. A, to the D, sounds fun fast. The strumming is in my wrist, if you're not noticing. I keep it tight the faster I go. It's all movement in the wrist. It also helps me stay a little bit more accurate on plucking those bass notes, which it's easy to pluck the wrong string from time to time. And as you're first getting started, it's easy to pluck the wrong string a lot. So don't get worried or frustrated if you're having a tough time keeping that accuracy. It's really good for the right hand accuracy to get used to plucking those bass notes and then the alternating bass notes. So that's for A, D, and E. I'm going to look at E, A, and B7. E and A are the same, but I wanted to give us an opportunity to look at B7. So B7 is an interesting one. There's a couple options. With B7, if we go to the higher string, so the root note is on that 5th string, and that's where our bass note is. But if we go to the higher string, that's the 4th string. That's actually the 3rd of the chord. So this is one where you could alternate with the 3rd of the chord. And there may be a moment, a song where that sounds good, and occasionally we may throw that in, but what we usually do is go to the 5th, or what I usually do is go down to the 5th. That's the most common one we use, going to the 5th, and then there's the occasion where with some of these chords we will use the 3rd. This is one of those chords where we can use the 3rd, so we usually use the 5th. So to do the 5th on this one, we have to move our middle finger that's playing the root to the low 6th string at the 2nd fret. So it goes back and forth. Root, 5th, root, 5th, high to low to high to low. Sounds just like a bass player, though they'd be 1 octave lower, so they'd sound a little lower on the actual bass. So if I put that strumming in, my finger has to move. That middle finger to get used to the coordination of moving. It sounds pretty cool when you get it happening. Okay, so if we plug that into this chord progression then, 2 times per chord, we'd have E, like that. So that's a fun one. Now, the other chords that we haven't looked at yet, C, F, and G. I will mention back here with E and A, especially A and D, I should say, I was taking the low bass. And if you were wanting to take the high bass, that's okay. I'm just demonstrating one way. But sometimes I will go higher too. Except that B7 we kind of don't have another option, but you can go either way. It's okay. I just am demonstrating one way in this quick answer video. So in my books I go into greater detail, perhaps more ways, but C, F, G, and C will get us the other chords in first position we haven't yet done. So C, like B7, we're going to have our root is on the 5th string where our ring finger's playing that C note, and so that's our bass. We can go to the higher string and play the 3rd. Sometimes this happens. You can do a little hammer on. That happens with this chord a lot. With the hammer on, I pluck the open 4th string and then put my finger on. Kind of as a fast little afterthought, creates a little hammer on. So I can go 5th string to 4th string and go from the root to the 3rd. And I want to mention I can do that same thing with F. From the 4th string where the root is to the 3rd string, I go higher for the 3rd. And for the G or G7, sometimes it gets played here too, I can do the same thing from the 6th string to the 5th string. I get going from the root to the 3rd. And I can do that hammer on or not. Oops, I just threw in the 5th. There we go. So with this progression, just for minutes, we'll do it that way. So 2 times per chord, we're going to go from the lower string to the higher string. So the root for C is on the 5th. I'm going to go to the 4th string where the 3rd is for the alternate. For F, I'm going to go to the 4th string where the root is to the 3rd for the alternate. If you're playing the 6th string chord, it doesn't work the same. Going between the 6th and the 5th strings for that is actually root to 5. So this only works with the little 4 string F. And then for G, going 6 to 5, 6th string has my root, 5th string has my 3rd. I'll get that alteration between the root and the 3rd, and that happens sometimes in this chord combination. So if I do that with this chord progression, then 1, 2, ready, and C. With each of these chords, I could also alternate with the 5th, which happens depending on the song. So if we start with C, for this one, I could get the 5th by alternating between the 5th string, which has the root, and the 3rd string. Oops. But I don't usually grab that higher 5th. I can do what I did with B7 and go to the lower one. So in this case, I have to take my ring finger, which is on the 3rd fret of the 5th string. I'm playing C, and then go down to the 3rd fret of the 6th string to play the 5th. And I love the sound of that. Root, lower 5, sounds so cool. So the same type of thing works for the F chord. I have my little 4-string F, my root on that 3rd fret of the 4th string, so my finger there. And I can take and go to the 3rd fret of the 5th string for the 5th. So it just goes back and forth. So if I plug that in, I can also play the bar chord, that full 6-string version of the bar chord, I should say, and alternate between the 6th string and the 5th string. So I can go low to higher, and that gets done sometimes with F as well. So we have that option with F. 2, and then for G, if we're going to do the 5th, I've got that low 6th string. I can't go lower unless I had a 7-string guitar. So I've got to come and grab the open D string. So I have to skip over a string from 6 to 4. Okay, so if I plug that into this progression then, and I'm going to use the 4-string F instead of the 6-string, it would have something like a 1, 2, ready, and C. F. Got that G. C. That C. Thing that happens sometimes at the end. Okay, I hope that helps. Now, if you want to learn to do bass note runs, that sort of thing, check out my quick answer video on bass note runs between various chords. Take care. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. For more in-depth lessons and to progress through a free guitar course, check out my Guitar 101 series on YouTube and my guitar method books, which all come with access to hours of in-depth video lessons. You can find more information about me and my products at KristenBromley.com. Take care.